Now, Donald Trump says that he expects Elon Musk to find hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse at the Pentagon. Here he is on Fox News.
I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
Sounds like, Emily, we haven't seen the worst of it yet.
I don't think we've even reached beyond the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately. When it comes to the Pentagon, people are really outraged that we dare investigate the Department of Defense, but people get audited, banks get audited. How else do you make sure that everything's running efficiently if you can't monitor it? I mean, if you don't look, it'll turn into USAID if you can't account for where the money's going to. When it comes to the Pentagon specifically, they failed 8 years in a row audits from the US government, and nobody's concerned about that. 8 years in a row failure for lack of accountability, lack of bookkeeping, lack of finance tracking, lack of allocating where military weapons have gone. How is that acceptable? They mentioned the Department of Education is next. How many billions of dollars were spent on them? And where do we rank globally in education? We're failing. Everything that's been allowed until now is inefficient, and it's quite embarrassing because now it's airing out and we look foolish.
That's absolutely right. And there are still some Democrats complaining that this is taking place and that we're finding out about all this waste and corruption. Now, one of the latest reports out of the Doge team is that it has discovered FEMA sent $59 million last week, not over a year, just last week, $59 million to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. Now, of course, that money is meant for American disaster relief, and instead it's being spent on high-end hotels for illegals. I mean, Emily, what do you make of this?
Beyond the fact that they're just ignoring Trump's executive order with fearing no consequences, beyond that fact is that there are so many American citizens who work so hard. They pay their taxes. They came into this country legally. They assimilated. They are still waiting for this money from FEMA because their homes have been destroyed by hurricanes. Kristi Noem's working on it right now in her district, but there's people whose neighborhoods, their houses have been destroyed completely and that are homeless right now. And imagine them watching the news and you see that illegal immigrants who disrespected our country by crossing the borders are now being rewarded for the illegal actions by a bureaucratic agency that we didn't put them there. And now they're wasting our money. It's just really disgraceful.
The amount of money, it's just hard to keep up with. It's unbelievable. Let's turn our attention to something that never got enough attention from the mainstream media, and that is the assassination attempts on Donald Trump. 2 in 2 months last year. Now, President Trump has ordered the Secret Service to provide him every bit of information about his 2 would-be assassins. He told the New York Post that I want to find out about the 2 assassins. Why did one guy have 6 cell phones and why did the other guy have foreign apps? He said, no more holding back because of Biden. I'm entitled to know, and they held it back long enough. And he's absolutely right. We are all entitled to know what happened. Donald Trump took a bullet for America, and it just seems weird that we don't know anything about the first shooter, really. Emily, what do you make of this?
I'll add another question to Trump's list. I want to know why Joe Biden, as the president, wasn't more concerned in finding out who these assassins were, because it's not only a threat to the President Trump, but it's a threat on national security. Now, Secret Service should fully do their due diligence and a full investigation on finding out not only everything about them, but publicize it, because we deserve to know who these murderers are that basically, I don't want to say got away with it, but it did not get the media attention, as you pointed out. And it could only help them with their security strategies. Maybe they were affiliated with a bigger group. Maybe they were paid. But these are questions that we deserve to know as the American people. But on a personal note, Donald Trump's life almost got taken so publicly. As a human being, shouldn't he know who the people were responsible behind his what could have been a murder? As a grandfather, as a father, as a human being, he deserves to know these things for his peace of mind.
Absolutely. And so it never happens again. Even though he's in power now, there's of course still a threat to his life. We need to know every bit of information that is out there, and we need to get it, as well as Donald Trump and of course his family. Emily, I want to talk to you about the situation in the Middle East. Terrorist group Hamas has announced it will delay the release of the hostages and has of course accused Israel of violating the agreement. Israel says, though, that this announcement from Hamas is a complete violation of the ceasefire agreement. You know, hearing this news today, my heart just breaks for the families who are still waiting for their loved ones to come home. Sadly, we know that not all of them are alive. But, you know, Emily, are you surprised that Hamas is doing this?
Wow, murderers, rapists are not following the law. That shocks me. Unfortunately, I'm saddened to even say this publicly. I feel the reason that they're doing this is because I'm afraid the hostages who are yet to come out might even be in worse condition than what we saw the other day. And the other day, we saw 3 men who went in there looking very healthy, coming out looking like they escaped Auschwitz or Birkenau or these horrible concentration camps. Except the equivalency of comparing Hamas to the Nazis doesn't do justice, because I'll point out something very obvious. The Nazis tried to hide their crimes as much as possible when the war was nearing its end. They wanted to hide from humanity what they did and keep it a secret. Hamas is so publicly broadcasting, live streaming, taking pride in their murders, putting these hostages on stages like they're puppets that they're playing with, humiliating them on live television, and they're showing the world, look who we are. Yet some folks will act surprised when they see the dehumanization that Hamas is doing on the Israeli people and still choose to turn the blind eye. It's beyond me how you could still turn a blind eye in Hamas these days.
You're exactly right. Hamas is using this as a propaganda opportunity, and we saw those 3 hostages that had spent almost 500 days in captivity. They're reportedly suffering from severe physical and mental deterioration, including malnutrition, heart disorders, prolonged infection, which of course makes sense because the hostages endured physical, psychological abuse during their captivity. You know, looking at the images of them being paraded around by these terrorists just ahead of their release makes me feel so sick. I don't know how anyone can still support Hamas as they use this as a propaganda opportunity, Emily.
Of course. And, you know, I'll make your day a little bit better by sharing with you that about 20 minutes ago, Trump said that I think this Saturday, if Hamas does not release the remaining hostages, quote, all hell will break loose and it is over for them. So selfishly, I hope we reach what Saturday comes to and all hell does break loose, because now we have the US's support, which unfortunately Netanyahu did not have under the Biden administration. He was constantly suffocated. He was constantly giving red lines that he couldn't cross, aka don't go into Rafah. And then Israel goes into Rafah and they find their hostages there. So now that we have the support of the US president saying, if Hamas won't adhere to the ceasefire agreement, do what needs to be done, it feels good, both as an Israeli and as an American.
And if we didn't have Donald Trump back in power, we wouldn't have any of the hostages back at all. And we know that Trump's threats against Hamas work. They work to get that ceasefire agreement in the first place, and I'm sure they're going to work again. Look, I want to change gear here and end this on a lighter note. Let's talk about Donald Trump at the Super Bowl. It was absolutely iconic to see the crowd roar in support of him.
Through the fight or the ramparts we.
But it was a different reaction when the crowd saw Taylor Swift. Emily, what did you make of it all?
First of all, there's nothing more patriotic than a sitting American president, the very first in history to attend what's literally celebrating American excellence in sports. It's such a feeling of pride that we haven't felt in the last 4 years under Biden's administration. Now, the fact that Taylor Swift got booed, if I were there, I'd be booing too, because she, not even for a genuine reason, but because of her money, she got paid to endorse Kamala, who is possibly the worst candidate in history to ever run for president in the US. And football's a pretty patriotic sport. They're hardcore, American-loving, hardworking people who came to the Super Bowl. And now, if you need to choose between Donald Trump or Taylor Swift, I think they know which side to choose, but I want to go off on a tangent for a minute.
Sure.
Travis Kelce said that he was proud to have Donald Trump at the game. Now, Taylor Swift, let's just say I believe her that she actually endorsed Kamala. I just want to throw in there that I'm now skeptical that their whole relationship is fake, which has been a rumor, but now consider me convinced.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something, or there's probably a bit of trouble in paradise between Taylor Swift and her boyfriend.